I do enjoy getting to spend time with customers generally out there. It's kind of nice to just have a little chat up here as well and let everybody listen in on our chat. When you think about delivering value to the business, right? Because I think the days of identity being kind of a back office necessary evil are over, and we're really trying to deliver value to the business. How do you think, Lori, the business thinks about identity today?
Yeah, I think for us at Salesforce, we're lucky because I think Salesforce customers hear this from us a lot, but trust is our number one value. So I've been able to capitalize on that, coupled with identity attacks being one of the biggest threat vectors. And so our executive leadership is really aware of that. And because of that, identity initiatives make it as a high priority on our corporate objectives, what we call the V2 MOM. So I'm fortunate enough to have actually onboarding to SOX applications as a corporate initiative. And I know not everybody has that, where from the top down, they're pushing it down. And I feel really fortunate that we do have the ability to say, hey, identity is important. Here's our initiatives around MFA or phishing resistant or IGA. That being said, even though it gets pushed down and those initiatives are on people's objectives, we still get a lot of pushback and people have other priorities. So we have to do a lot of education and training on, hey, this is a security risk. We have to get there. We use Zero Trust a lot, to push the Zero Trust initiatives. But I think despite that support, there is a lot of push and pull from an adoption perspective, and it requires us to educate on those values of security and risk and compliance.
Cody, how do you see it at Keurig, Dr. Pepper?
Well, as one of the largest drink manufacturers in Northern America, and some of your all's favorite brands such as Dr. Pepper, Snapple, Canada Dry, and as well, if you're not familiar, we also make Mott's applesauce, delicious and great for your kids, by the way. And then we dominate in the coffee business on our Keurig side. But it is one of those things that, back office, no, because when something doesn't go right, we feel the impact immediately, because not being able to get our users the access that they need from day one impacts production. It impacts our ability to use those people and those resources effectively. So, and then as well, and Grady spoke about this a little bit yesterday, about having good descriptions on things that get certified. When those aren't good, and we do the things for compliance purposes, such as recertifying access, and somebody takes something away, and all of a sudden somebody that maybe logs into a system, once a month or something for maybe, month-end close or quarter-end close, doesn't have access that they need, right? The value's there, it hits them hard, and guess what? I'm getting some phone calls that I don't want to be taken right now, right?
Exactly.
So it's dominant in our industry.
I always say, don't let any bad incident go wasted, because we've had instances where we shut things down and everybody suddenly remembers, oh, this identity thing is important because nobody can access salesforce.com for a minute, and it's not a good thing.
That tends to get everyone's attention, doesn't it?
You don't want to have those. Yeah.
If you think about some of the different business outcomes that are kind of top of mind, there's certainly still the drive to be compliant. Audits matter, and people don't want to be talking to their board about audit failures. There's a great understanding of the risk profile now of poor identity management. We've talked about that. But a lot of it is also about enabling people to be effective and get their work done as environments, digital transformations happen. Do you all kind of see those in a certain priority? Are they all kind of equally prioritized in your organization? How would you think about that?
So for us, I'm going to say, and most of us got into this with compliance first, right? And for publicly traded companies and large companies, you're always going to have that aspect of compliance. But it's interesting, and I'm hearing a lot of people looking at moving to the cloud, and we actually are one of them. And one of the things that I'm hearing is like, hey, how are you guys getting your auditors past that, right? And it brings it funny, because you're like, auditors, typically, they want things to kind of stay the same, right? They don't really want us to introduce new risk into the environment, right? So is it really compliance first then? Are we looking at, have we shifted and thought more about security and enablement, right? Because I think we're all pretty confident we're going to get the auditors there, right? And they'll get what they need and satisfy. And after they get over, the first, couple discussions with you, and we've certainly gotten there where they ease the tension, right? But you're starting to see some of the things about, the latest that are coming out, and you see the possibilities in those enablements. And that's, I think, really starting to drive more of the conversation, and people are getting smarter about that and hearing more about that, and they want more efficiency in their processes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think for us, our team mantra is enabling secure access. And I always say every one of those words is really important.
Yep.
And we do have to enable the business, and we have to do it in a secure manner. So to me, they're equal. I do think sometimes we over pivot on compliance, and I think this is a little bit what you're alluding to, is that compliance sells and people can relate to it. But when you design for compliance purposes, you're not designing the right way. So I really think you have to design to ensure that you're enabling the business and you're protecting the business at the same time.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the things I think has happened in a lot of boardrooms is a set of board members saying, so we've been passing all our audits and we just had a major breach. How do I rationalize that, right?
Absolutely.
Are we really secure? Are we just compliant, right? For sure. There's a sense in which we've all shifted our thinking, or maybe some of us had this thought a little further back, but people used to think of identity as a project. I'll come in and I'll do this project and then I'll be done with that project. And I think most folks, a lot of the pros in this room are professionals in an ongoing program, right? This is a long game that we're in with lots of different milestones along the way. What do you each have in your organization that's sort of some of the key items next on the horizon? You've made a lot of progress. You've gotten a lot of things done in your organizations. What are some of the key things looming on the horizon for you, Lori?
Yeah, well, I will say everything we're doing, I think the first thing to think about is powered. It's kind of the how, but everything we're doing is powered by AI and ML, and if you will, data. So I'll frame the conversation with that. That's injected into everything we're doing. I would say the first thing is focusing on experience. So from our perspective, experience is for the administrators out there, and how do we simplify onboarding to our services and make it more self-service, improving the user experience, like no experience is the best experience type thing. And then I'll shift, and we frame our goals around zero trust, like I was saying. I think if we look at kind of never trust, always verify, the thing we're focused on is all traffic, all identities. So that's different a little bit. It means bringing in the non-human identities and making sure we're protecting them, and as they're integrating with us. And non-human could be service accounts, it could be machines, et cetera, but even tying identities to devices and making sure we're integrating at the network layer, that's really big for us. Ensuring we have strong authentication and phishing resistant is big. But then getting into least privilege and assuming breach. And so if someone does breach our environment, how do we corral them in such a way and focus on R back, A back, P back, et cetera.
Got your back.
Got my back. And then a big thing, Grady talked about this yesterday. Well, I'll give it the ITDR label. But for me, I think about it like continuously monitor and adapt. So how do we get signals from different things happening in our environment and respond to it in the identity environment? And that's a big push for us.
Yep. Cody, what would you say?
So we're starting, or we're coming to a close of a big transition for us to move to the cloud. That's our big goal. And as we do that, we are streamlining processes that we really, we've been good at, we want to be great at internally, right? And as I mentioned earlier about getting people, the right access that they need on day one, that's going to be, huge and critical for us as we do this project. But we're really excited about the things that the cloud enables us to do, and be able to scale and move faster with our business needs. And that's going to come with a lot of efficiencies that we need to really take our identity program to the next level. Across the board, at a larger scale, we're embracing security by design as a company, and identity is a central piece of that, right? We can't have it without identity being focal and get everybody on board.
Absolutely. So there's only two of us on this panel, two of you on this panel with me. So I was going to ask you about one piece of advice. I'm feeling generous. Two. How about two pieces of advice? A couple thoughts on kind of as we're kind of beginning to wrap up. What are things you've learned along the way that you'd love to share with folks maybe who are earlier in their journey? And what are the things you wish you'd maybe put more emphasis on? Maybe those are a couple of ways to kind of spur some thinking there. Or pieces of advice. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay. Well, I think a learning is actually a point I alluded to is over pivoting on compliance. So as we designed our IGA solutions, it was very influenced by SOX. And there was a huge push from the top down, onboard all of your SOX applications. So what happened was there was push for onboarding without the background thought of end-to-end, how should IGA look? What's the right way to do this? And we just onboarded. And each system that we onboarded, we tweaked a little, we customized a lot, and got to a point now where we had inconsistencies in our integration patterns, and it was like a little bit of a Frankenstein because every application was a snowflake. And so I would say you've got to have a vision and strategy for where you want to take IGA and kind of push that and bring the business along with you, force them to use those patterns. I think when you get to a place where automation comes in, you have to have those established. So you can't have all this unique snowflake in your environment. So I would say don't over pivot on compliance, have a vision and strategy. And then the other big thing I would advise is data matters. So in this case, I'm alluding to identity data specifically. So many organizations have multiple identity systems in their environment. They've, through the years, put in different identity technologies. And not having a clean data layer makes all these other things really, really difficult. So we are really focused on, I say hypothetically, building an identity data warehouse, bringing that in, adding the entitlement data and the things that you need to really have that vision of how does an identity, an application, an asset all come together. And so that data layer, make sure as you're starting, especially if you're just starting, think about the data layer. It's so important to everything else you do.
Good counsel.
I would say embrace your customers and really embrace them. So one of the things that I love doing is actually once something gets to a certain point where you just tell things aren't going right, is picking up the phone and actually calling somebody, and that means anybody in the company, right? So my favorite stories are the ones where I'm calling Roger, who's at one of our manufacturing plants, or and he's we're literally FaceTiming each other, and you get on, he's like, whoa, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm in the corporate office here, and he's telling me about his onboarding experience or whatever. And he's stressed out because he can't get, to his work. And I'm like, I kind of run this thing. So I think we're going to figure this out right here, right now. But you learn through those experiences, you start to develop empathy for those people that maybe aren't as familiar with technology, or use a computer every day, or even a smartphone to do their work. And you really start to appreciate what they're going through. And then you come back to your teams and you're like, guys, what are we doing? Us sitting around in a room to design a new process, that ain't gonna work. We gotta go engage others. We gotta go get from the front lines what's going on, what their experience is. You guys all know how to use the tech, and you're great at it, but you have no idea what they go through on a day-to-day basis, right? Yeah. So it's really embracing your customers, learning what they're going through. Because if you're a company like ours, you're going to have people that are more tech focused, that maybe are in the the back offices, and then you're going to have people that are in the front lines, and that's huge. If we're able to go for two here,
you got two. Although I can't get out of my head the picture of you embracing Roger in the manufacturing.
Yeah. Hey,
there's something about that. I don't know what to do with embracing Roger, but anyways, keep going. Let's go.
It's yeah. Now I can't get it out of my head. But The other thing I would say is, especially, we're doing a big transformation play. I think one of the things that was huge for us is, even though I own it and you want to be this fearless leader, the thing that really helped me was going at it with others. Bringing in somebody that maybe is not directly impacted by this, but has an impact on it, right? And being like, hey, do you think this decision's right as well? Because when you're dealing with some of that stuff, there's high pressure. There's you want to deliver. We call it deliver big, but deliver big for your company, and having somebody else on your side that's there with you, as you guys are marching down the field, that's huge, right? So take in some ways embrace your teams, because these are big, complex organizations that take they take some sophisticated answers to get through, right? So I would say, don't just think that you have to have all the answers. Use somebody else on your team, because that's going to be, a big differentiator for you. It also just from a psychological and emotional state, eases it on you as well. Because let's be honest, transformations are hard.
Yeah, I think that's so important. The customer experience side of things is big. We have this Slack channel called Airing of Grievances, and people.
Hey, my team, we're probably not going to do that, just to be clear.
Yeah, it's a popular channel, and unfortunately, identity is a popular topic on that channel. So we kind of jokingly said, by the end of this year, I want identity to show up 20% less on Airing of Grievances, because it comes up a lot. It's a blocker. So.
One of the famous technology companies I worked for in my career, I think our hidden slogan was, "We suck less than the other guys," which was not the kind of thing you put on a marketing campaign, but it was super motivating internally.
Yeah.
No, that's so helpful, you guys. I appreciate kind of the reality of what you're, we talk about these things kind of almost theoretically sometimes, and we have big visions for where we're going to go. There's a lot of hard work to kind of get teams bought in, get your own team aligned, get the business aligned. Cody, I really appreciate some of your thoughts about kind of just how do you really get those folks in the dialogue, and Lori, just that understanding of know where you're going from early on, so you're not, there was a lot of paving the cow path in this space, like let's just keep kind of wandering our way toward the answer, and I think now we can paint a much clearer vision as an industry of where we want to go. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys joining us on stage today. Thanks for your time, thanks for joining us here, appreciate your support of SailPoint. Thanks again.
Thank you.